Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Buddy Martin Show. It's Tuesday night, and we're here in our studio and we're watching and listening to all the good stuff we've been hearing about. Media Day and Press Day, Gators Open. It was quite a special day for a lot of people. We'll get them to weigh in. If you saw any of the press conferences, I would, uh, I would, I would suggest you do if you haven't, because I came away very encouraged, and we'll see what you think. That'll be the topic of discussion tonight, as we were joined by David Whitley, the Gainesville Sun, our buddy Rob Browne from Sidelines. Uh, we've got Loren Meadows on tonight, and many more. So come join us. Listen to the program. It's going to be interesting. I was encouraged by what I heard and saw from Billy Napier. Not just blowing smoke here, it's real. Coming up next, it's the Buddy Martin Show. Well, there you go. That's already started playing games for the venue. They won't play the Open tonight, so we'll just do it by ourselves. Okay, we'll do this. Um, yeah, folks, we're experiencing a little difficulty with internet tonight, and if you will, give us just a moment while we get a hold of Kevin Brockaway, who will be our guest tonight. Kevin works for the Gainesville Sun, does a terrific job, and and he's texting me right now. Well, we're wondering what happened. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and tell folks you're on the Buddy Martin Show, even without the music. And we will go to our first host tonight. He's back after 2 weeks. Finally back. David Whitley rejoins the program. David, great to see you again, my friend.
Great to be seen, buddy, especially by you.
Well, tell me about, first of all, before we jump right in, there's a lot of good stuff that was said today. I'm anxious to get your take on it. I wasn't there, but I listened to all of it just about, and I read a lot of stuff. I have my thoughts. I'll hold mine back while you get yours. So give me your off the top of the head, back from vacation. And you were vacationing, right? Beaching and all that stuff.
I traveled all over the world, or at least to Connecticut.
There you go. Yeah. We'll hear about that later. Go ahead and tell me what your early impressions were with Billy today and his coaches, the press conference, and everybody you talked to. Tell me about what it was like out there, because I was stuck up here in Northwest Florida.
Well, it was upbeat, as you would expect. But and I sort of hate to say, that we've heard this before, but we have. But I, like you, was sort of sucked in, and if he went up there just blowing smoke, I believe he believes what he's saying.
Dude, I agree with you.
Right. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. Time will tell. Only none of us know what this team will look like, in 3 months, 4 months. But at this point, he's not just up there spinning like, a White House press secretary might be. He is telling what I think is in his heart he believes to be true, that the team has, he's turned the program around, and we're going to see the fruits of that, of a lot of labor coming, starting a month from today, actually a month from tomorrow.
You're a trained professional. You've heard these guys before. You've been to a lot of these coaching press conferences. We're sort of aging veterans. We have an idea that we know what we're listening to, but it's like I always like to say, if you play the piano by ear, which I do a little bit, not much, you don't really know. There's nothing to go by in terms of the notes on the screen or notes on the page. You have to kind of listen for it and see what sounds like something that sounds harmonious. I liken that a little bit to what we're doing as trained journalists. When you hear it, does it sound right? I heard a lot of things today that sounded right.
Yeah. He brought in, two guys that will be pivotal in this whole thing, because he talked defense and special teams. And although the special teams problems were somewhat overblown last year, the ones they made were just so egregious and silly that they skewed everything. And in comes Joe Houston, who I must say, the coaches you get up there, the strength coach, get up there, Tyler Miles, he looked like a strength coach. He's bursting out of his
Mhm.
And all the players, of course, look.
How so? Tell me, describe how he looked.
Oh, chiseled out of granite. I mean, that guy. Looked like he had about a 2.3 body fat. And he said that, and I thought this was sort of telling you. He said that the program he's instituted, he put himself through this summer, just so he can look at the players and they can't say, you don't know what we're going through, but he does know what they're going through. Of course, it also helps that he's young enough to go through it. I mean, you're not going to have Ron Roberts out there trying to, squat 500 pounds, at age 60 or whatever. But so he can do it. And he's cut. And just the sheer numbers he throws out of the amount of weight loss, weight gain kind of thing, the muscle kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, those aren't really opinions. Those are just facts. And the number of people that are running faster than they have ever run and how many that is. Now, whether that translates to better football, we shall see, but it definitely, you want to start with a stronger, faster team regardless.
And those were the words that were used, stronger, faster, and all that stuff. I mean, the descriptions of the bodies, the numbers. I mean, I don't know. To me, I've heard all that stuff, but to me, it was really, really, really good, and I liked it a lot. And I'm going to trade messages with you, but I wanted to know, what did it feel like in the room?
I think I thought. I mean, usual. I mean, people were happy because they had Panera cater it, so that always gets a better, thing. When the way to a meat is hardest through their stomach.
Yeah,
always.
right. Yeah.
So when we need a nice cinnamon crunch bagel, it helps. I talked to a couple of, we're professional skeptics in this business. Been there, done that, heard it all before. But I talked to a couple of more skeptical scribes afterwards, and one of them said, "I'm buying it."
Okay.
He said,
could you
"I'm on
tell
board."
me who it was? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I will give you the initials. ML, as in Mark Long.
Okay, that's a good one.
And I don't think he would mind me saying it. He's Mark is a wise man when it comes to stuff. He has been around and seen and heard Florida coaches and professional coaches all come up there and give preseason spiels for a long time.
Yeah. He's one of the hardcore guys.
Yeah, and he's got a good BS meter.
Out of the room, you got to convince. If I was up there, right?
He got a good BS meter, and he said, I'm buying it. I mean, he didn't say, I'm predicting 9-3, but he wasn't the usual very circumspect. This is all just blowing smoke. They'll be gone in a month, kind of thing that you might get from someone who looks at things through a critical eye,
right,
as Mark often does. So that he's a pretty good bellwether on things when it comes to that. And people respect his opinion. His opinion is, that it's not just blowing smoke, that there's something there.
Yes, you're right. There is something there. And I don't know, what were the 2 or 3 most single impressive things you heard or saw? Because I think just the visibility, the body language, and the rhythm of the press conference, of the press remarks were prepared, but not overly scripted. They sounded authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said, he was commenting on something he believed in, and it was somewhat convincing. So, what were the 2 or 3 things that really sold you?
The players, Jake Slaughter got up there, and just the way they talk about each other and the responsibility and how seriously they're taking it. And I tell you what impressed me was Tyler Miles was again saying how the accountability that they're holding each other to.
Yeah.
And it's not just don't blow this assignment. It's the simple things of keeping a clean locker and the facility clean, and how even the cleaning crew has mentioned to Billy, that, hey, this is unlike things we've seen. And it's the little things that mean that you that just points to a discipline and an accountability that you have to have. That I mean certainly you can walk into a locker room and it can be a mess, and it doesn't mean the team's not going to go 12-0. But if it's clean and guys are taking care of their business and holding other people accountable, you feel better about that. And it's just the little thing like that when you hear that. Wow, even the cleaning crew is saying, man, these guys are taking accountability for things. So if you take accountability for a piece of trash, though, you take accountability also for getting up and getting in and working out when you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of volunteers, Billy says, he went in there one Saturday morning, there was, 70 guys in there for, they didn't have to, but they were there. And 55 guys got the perfect Gator award somewhere, where they didn't miss a workout all summer, in an optional workout. They were in there. And I did get a little bit suspicious when they were saying that they went to, and Mark pointed this out long, that they went in and asked Tyler Miles to start, or Billy to start fining them if they're late for practice or late for anything. I don't know. I can believe they say, make it harder on us in the weight room, but to say, look, if I'm a minute late for a meeting, I want to be fined $100. I don't know about that.
Well, I get the spirit of it, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I understand what they're saying, and I do believe that there's something to the fact that it's like one suffer, all suffer. Yeah. I'll trade this with you, and I'm going to tell you about a couple of things I wrote about. Not that I wrote anything as good as you. I don't mean that. The fact is that when the people who are the regular people who work in the building are telling you they note something different, you better listen. It's like when you go to a restaurant and ask the hired help about the food, they'll tell you the real story. And I think the vibes we're getting back here are very strong and convincing. And I went into it like you did, like, okay, show me what this is. I don't know. I'm not going to fall for this. Here I go again, deal. Mm-hmm. And I just kept saying, that's impressive. That's impressive. That's mm-hmm. impressive. And when you talk about the things that their offensive team looks very good. Obviously, Graham Mertz is his team, as was pointed out. He's very confident in him. He loves the core of receivers. He used a ton of talent. They do have a lot of good players in the wide receivers. The offensive line, which is now more experienced, taking more snaps. It all sounded really good. And then we got to the defense. Okay, but how about the defense? Well, now we had Ron Roberts, okay? What did you expect from Ron Roberts? What did you hear? What did you think? And anything that you wanted to comment on in terms of body mass seems to be a big deal. Guys, and they're ripped now. And that old stat they threw out the other day, 50 pounds of fat and 50 pounds gone and 50 pounds of muscle put on. Hey, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's on both sides of the ball. The physical transformation of some guys are doing it. With Roberts, you just get the guy who is comfortable in his skin, and he doesn't get up there and think he's got to BSU because he's confident in what he's done. He's got a good track record, and I don't think he gets out there thinking I have to impress this room. I just can say what is on my mind and be truthful about it. And he, he's saying, look. We obviously had problems here, tackling, physicality, all that stuff. He says, we've done all we can to address this. And what they continually point to more than anything is just experience and how they had to rely on so many guys who didn't have it last year, but now those guys have it, and they bought in, some, especially safety position, some fifth year guys. And so that will translate into, instead of guessing where I'm going to go, they'll know where to go, and there's a lot more cohesion on that side of the ball. Draw with it from it what you may, but Roberts has become the spokesman. He's the guy they're trotting out there, to talk, and not Austin Armstrong.
He is the executive head coach.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, it's like when you go work in the sports department. There's a sports editor and an executive sports editor.
Yeah.
Who's the guy really in charge?
Yeah.
Usually the executive sports editor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, nobody asked him. So, who's really in charge? It is a collaborative process.
Yeah. And he did say, by the way, I've got 4 former defensive coordinators on my staff. Yeah. I'd be foolish not to listen to them.
Right. And last year there wasn't that cohesion among the staff. As you find out later that really there was some friction and disagreement and all that. Now I think everybody is on the proverbial same page when it comes to what they need to do and how they go about it.
And I had a little conversation with myself about 4:30 yesterday morning, trying to put together my thoughts. I mean, look, maybe I'm not smart, maybe I'm not talented, but I have been around a long time. And I can trace the genealogy of this team pretty well, and you can too. And we can go up, start down here where Bob Woodward started. You don't, but I do. Until they rose up to they were 500. They were 500, okay? And going to bowl games, and that was called progress. All you younger Gators who think this has always been, no, it hasn't. There's a lot of wait until next year Gators out there who have suffered through. Never thought they'd ever see a day when they won a championship. And they experienced that. But anyway, Woodruff went through his time, and he was just brutally boring. Coach was fired. Ray Graves came in and brought new hope. Won 9 games his first year. He gave us some things to think about. He beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. He brought on Steve Spurrier, who won the Heisman. He went to some major bowl games, the Sugar and the Orange, which Florida didn't go to, it hadn't gone to before. He made a stride. And then, of course, we know the deal was made with the devil, and he resigned to step upstairs, was forced upstairs, who brought in the golden boy, Doug Dickey, who, by the way, was an awfully good-looking hire, had won the SEC in Tennessee and was considered to be a bright young coach. And it was deadly dull for the next 10 years. All right, that was another waste. I don't have to tell you all this. And then, then you start grasping and trying to find somebody, and you get a good coach in Pell and Hall. They get on probation. They have a good team. All goes down the tubes, and who rides in the scene on a white steed? The guy who won the Heisman Trophy bails him out, gives him a national championship, 6 SECs, turned the program around, and Gator fans thought, wow, I didn't even think this was possible. And now you get your hopes up again. Wait, this is really amazing. I remember my sister saying, I finally got to see the national champion before I died, which she did eventually, but that's how it was. And then we go through all the things. They got Urban Meyer. They got very fortunate. They got Urban Meyer, and they did, because Zook was the wrong guy, who did a pretty good job, but not good enough. And then we go into the 3 M's era of, there's one more M to add to it, mediocrity. Never get over the hump with Muschamp and Mullen and those 3 guys. And here they are stuck.
McElwain.
I just draw a blank on McElwain for some reason.
Well, McElwain drew a blank on McElwain too.
Yeah, so here they are. And now I'm just trying to trace this genealogy thinking, okay, up, down, up, down, up, down. Now here we're back with Billy, and where we are, exactly where we started with Bob Woodruff. 500, hoping to get to a bowl. Now, I don't mean it's like a downer, but that is the truth. And am I negative about Napier? No, I'm not. I think he's really a good coach, and they claim they got some really great football players, and they sound upbeat, and I think you're going to be better. But that's my take on it, and that's where we are, David. Yeah. Whether you're a millennial, whether you're a boomer, whether you're a silent generation, or wherever you were, as to how good this feels. For those like us who remember the day, it feels great. For those who came along during Gen X days, not so much.
No, I mean, you're right. One of the few benefits of becoming a gray beard is having perspective and seeing those things that other people. And you're right. Anybody under 40, they were born into Camelot. Steve, and then comes Urban, pretty much. And then so it's easy to be really sour after that. Anybody under 15, they've just known mediocrity or worse. So they may be more appreciative of this going on. But it is. I mean, this is. We're not talking Notre Dame, Alabama, but Notre Dame and Alabama aren't what people think. I mean, Notre Dame's had a lot of down years. Alabama's had a lot of down. I mean, Notre Dame's last pile was
of it.
I mean, I think what Florida's won 3 national championships since Notre Dame has. So
that's true.
But they just have that image. So there's been historically you're going to have the ups and downs. It's been down,
Yeah.
and there is every reason to think, okay, this might be one of those, history circling back around, and here comes, after the mediocrity, a latter day or a modern day. I don't want to call him Ray Graves. I mean, who knows? But
whatever.
No, I mean, yeah, but he's gosh, darn, I just can't help but like Billy. He's just a likable guy.
He is a likable guy. You really pull. Now, let's take a few comments from people out there. Here's a comment from Buck Wade. One thing I love hearing from Coach today was the amount of credible leadership. Stuff like gets me fired up. I haven't heard those words from him until today. I think what he said was it's better when they buy in, not just the coaches. It's good that the coaches like it, but you got fans out there. Dan Bond said he heard you. Let's see what else we got here. Go Gators. Michael Burton. Let's see what he has to say here. He says, we could be at UF like team at Auburn, at Athens, needing driver's education and needing to graduate. UF is doing incredible. They are doing good on some things, driving at least. Robert Turner says, I watched Billy's press conference. I believe he speaks the truth. He's still being Billy. Being Billy is not a bad thing. Well, that's a pretty good comment, I think. Don't you? No. Comment on any of these if you feel like it.
No.
Yeah,
I mean, well, as I said, Billy, if nothing else, through SEC media days and all through his spring tour and everything else, he has been the quietly confident guy.
Yeah.
And I think that we would sense if he wasn't, he's not a BSer ever is, but I think that he wouldn't be doing this if he didn't believe it.
Yeah.
And saying these things and he's not even saying them, just the way he's not, and he's not an off the record kind of guy, but when you do get talking to him and he's a little bit more loose, he says, we're going to surprise some people.
I want to just take a moment here. We're going to bring Rob Browne in from SEC sidelines to get kind of an opening week SEC look, and he follows the Gators closely on his program, SEC Sidelines, with some guy named Brendan Martin in the morning. And I want to get to him and get his thoughts about this. But I want to first tell folks that we do have to pay a bill, and we owe these people a great debt of gratitude. Meldon Law, they do care about you, and they will not back down. They are great fans. They are great supporters. They endorse programs. They've carried us on our show for a long time. They do some. Jeffrey is a very talented lawyer who also loves being a Gator fan. In fact, he's in Europe now, about to come home after about a month, and he'll be here to take care of business because he's very conscientious about the fact that when you come to his firm, he wants you to see a Meldon, not just somebody they brought in from the outside who just graduated from law school. They have 4 locations now to serve you: Gainesville, Ocala, Lake City, and a new one in Williston. If you have anything you'd like to know about in terms of your current lawsuit, whether you need another attorney, want a second opinion, you call them up and they'll do their best to help you, put you on the right track. They're people who you can trust. Meldon Law, they won't back down. Let's go see what Rob Browne is up to. Probably no good of some kind. Let's see what he's got going on there. If you haven't seen his show, it's becoming very popular among our constituency. And there he is up in Cherry Hills, Cherry Valley. What is it?
The Cherry Farm.
Cherry
It's been
Farm,
here
okay.
since I just finished running. Okay, this is the cool time of day. It's like heat index is only 102. So I just ran in about 7 minutes ago. But
I just ran in too, but I ran to the refrigerator. That's my way.
You're much smarter than I am. David, how are you doing, man? I missed you. I tried to get you on my show, and you were on the golf soiree in Connecticut. So glad to see you back on here.
Mm-hmm. I would, give me a call. I'd love to get on the show. I don't know if I'll run before I get on it because I'll be out of breath. I won't be looking as good as you.
How about a Fresca?
Fresca. That'll do it. Well,
when's the last time anybody saw a Fresca?
Yeah, I hope they're a sponsor. But you're right. It's like I want to be more shocked if you held up a tab.
Yeah, that's right. That is
guys,
right.
Let me just get into the fact here that so many things have changed, and we're kind of all 3 old timers. is that now they're talking about miles per hour. They talk about speed. Back in your day, Dave, they saw he ran a 9.4, 100 meters or whatever, 100 yards. And now it's always miles per hour. That kind of throws me off, Rob. But Dan Bond brought up a point today about that. And he said the number of fast guys, interesting. Tyreek Hill was a 22-mile-an-hour guy last year. And he's one of the fastest in the NFL. So one of the things, the theme today was heavy, and David was there, is they talked a lot about the changing of the bodies. They put a major emphasis on nutrition and new weight training program, new strength conditioning program. That famous stat they threw out a couple of weeks ago, they've lost 50 pounds of fat and put on 50 pounds of muscle. They're talking about the body shapes of the people. They gotten bigger, stronger, faster. And I guess probably the best way to relate to us is miles per hour. But does that tell you anything, David?
It must mean something in football terms, because you're right that no longer hear he's a 4.2 guy, but the way they measure, and because the ability to measure has come so far so fast with just the wearable technology. So they can go out there and they can point to at this play he was running 21 mile, 23, whatever, and I mean it is so granular now how they know everything about a guy's physical exertion at every minute of the practice. And we asked Miles to sort of put it in context, like, he said to have 2 guys at 23 or 3 guys at 23, 6 at 22, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. So how does that compare to other teams? And he says, well, just compared to teams I've been with, it's faster than the NFL teams and stuff like that. The number of, and, if you say Tyreek Hill is running 22 miles an hour, you think of him, you think this is, the fastest guy in the NFL. And of course, there's a lot more to Tyreek Hill that makes Tyreek Hill than just speed, but that's a big component. And when you think that, they've got, probably 10 guys that are running that fast, 8 or 10, just based on that, on the data, that you go, wow, it's doing something. And again, a team of sprinters doesn't mean you're going to win 8 games in the SEC, but when your starting point is being bigger and faster, that's much better. And, Frank, let's face it, the guys they're not the only team out there doing this. I would suspect, Georgia, LSU, Bama, they're doing the same thing with this. But the thing is, Florida, I don't think Florida was doing it till now. Based on what you hear, from the way they've overhauled that
they changed
program.
everything in midstream here. And we got standing by. We got Kevin Brockaway, who covers the team. He'll be joining us in just a minute. But I wanted to say that the last time I heard a miles per hour figure, a number associated with the name, was Anthony Richardson, going 140 miles an hour on his new Dodge Charger.
Yeah, well, that's what you usually equate it to, and God knows nobody in Georgia wants to hear MPH these days.
Sure. Yeah, let's go join with Kevin right here. He's going to join us for a few minutes and keep us up to date. He does a terrific job of covering the team. He also covers basketball. Does quite well. He's having problems with his phone tonight because we can't get his link. There you go. That's good. Well,
how about that? Is that
just stick right
there? Or am I still?
There you go.
All right. Well, that's at least a little better.
Yeah, I just told him maybe seasick. So I want to say hello to David. I know, and this
of
is
course, yeah. David and I work together very well. And
I don't know how much of that you heard talking about today's presser. Just off the top of your head, what was your take?
Well, I was, I found Joe Houston interesting. Obviously, getting a chance to talk to him, buddy. First of all, honor to be on the show. This is my first time on your show, and
it is. I know. I can't. Where you been all this time? How come you haven't gotten you home, man?
Exactly, and it's good to be on, and I'm a big fan of your work and everything that you've accomplished, and even your book on Steve Spurrier when he talked about his play-by-play from his high school baseball championship and read the whole thing and thought it was really well done.
You're very kind. And I'm going to say this. You are a real working Rob. You talk about true grit guys who grind it. This guy's a grinder. He does a terrific job on his stories, but he does a really great job on his tweets, whatever you call them now, X's, whatever. Because when he goes to an event, if I want to know the top of what happened, I can just read Kevin's tweets. He gets the news, information. He's really good, man. I love your tweets. Keep them up. Love your work too. But
Right.
But now that we've done it, we've been all the backslapping,
Yeah.
whatever. Tell me about what you thought today.
Yeah, no, Joe Houston, I thought was pretty interesting, just in terms of him talking about addressing special teams and kind of the twister map, right? The launch pad that they're going to use because of all the special teams problems, buddy, that we knew about last year in terms of, getting 11 lined up on the field in certain situations. And of course, it really proved costly in that Utah game, having two guys with the same number, and the Arkansas game at the end of the game. I think optically, Florida fans, as you know, really want to see what Steve Spurrier coined a more tidy operation. Mm-hmm. And I think with Joe Houston and Chris Couch now being allowed to coach on the field due to obviously the changes in rules with regards to analysts being allowed to provide, on-field instruction, I think it's going to be interesting to see whether that gets cleaned up. And, it's really interesting because, I look back to, 4 years ago, even when I was in Indiana and, during the COVID pandemic, the Big Ten wasn't playing football. But I remember, being on my couch and watching that Louisiana-Iowa State game, really a win that put Billy Napier on the map. And, you look back and what happened in that win. They returned a punt for a touchdown. They returned a kickoff for a touchdown in that game. That was two really key plays. Billy Napier talks about complementary football. At that time in this program, special teams was a weapon. And right now it's anything but a weapon. So I think, wanting to see that phase of the game improve and get to the point where you do have that complementary football, I think that would bode really well for Billy Napier in year 3.
Kevin, real quick, I want to address this. Tell them what you mean by the twister. You'll have to see the plastic thing. It's like if you ever played Twister in your life, it's just like that thing comes out of the box. Explain how that's used and what that's for, will you?
Yeah, it's like a map with 12 circles, like spots.
Stand here, count to 11, whatever.
They had it last year, but they had one with 17 spots and 9 on other ones.
Exactly. So, no question, buddy. I mean, I think that's an area that we all know that wants to, you want to improve at. And buddy, I was here during the Urban Meyer era, and yes. Special teams was such a weapon, with, Brandon James, Andre DeBose, the kick returns for the touchdowns. And it could really level the playing field, I think, for Florida when you take into account the fact that, line of scrimmage wise, probably a program like Georgia still ahead of them. But if you can pop a big play, and certainly, we also discussed with Russ Callaway more explosive plays on offense, that can certainly level the playing field somewhat when you're facing, some of the big, more physical teams in the SEC that Florida's trying to catch up to through recruiting.
Gotcha. All right, real fast before we've got standing by Coach Loren Meadows in the orange and blue room. I want to get maximized on Kevin here and what he's got to say. David, I know you work at the same place, but Rob, from your standpoint, you covered the whole league, all 16. And what are the things? I mean, I'm sure you're hearing a lot of things similar about the body shapes, the speed, the size. The accountability is a favorite word of everybody. I'm a little tired of accountability, okay? I mean, I know what it means, but let's be honest. You ought to have accountability as in anything. Give me sort of what the mantras are from all these guys you talk to around the league.
Well, last Thursday, when I was in Auburn, I met with one of the people on that AI panel for the SEC Media Days in Dallas, Thursday, July 18th. Brendan and I were in there. It was chaired by the office of the provost, the assistant from the University of Florida, which I call the UVA of the South. And that guy, Dr. Reed, was really smart. Dr. Ali, I met with him in Auburn. I'll tell you what colleges are doing. You now have like chips and markers when you go into your fitness centers that measure strength, maximum, threshold that you can take. There's all kind of stuff that they're using. The figure you used, about 50 pounds, it was 500 pounds. One of the coaches at the SEC Media Day said, he said we lost 500, but we gained 510 in muscle. So
muscle. I'm sorry.
But we're hearing a lot about that. Yeah. But when you go in, what I hear from talking to people at all these different schools, you go in to eat as a student athlete now. When you eat, you walk in, each player has to get his cards, yellow, green, blue, red, whatever. That's what you get to eat. So they're changing it. And as far as the speed goes, I think Usain Bolt got up to 26 miles an hour. He's the track and field guy. But I think strength and conditioning, we're just really scratching the surface on what we can do. And I like what someone said about Florida. Why is everybody talking about Florida's tough opponents, logo fever? They ought to be talking and more about, like, they get to play Florida and we're going to watch Florida kick their ass. I noticed a lot of things, but one thing tomorrow, football kicks off around the SEC in a lot of places, and it's going to be a hell of a season.
Yeah. So David, I mean, I think the emphasis is, and with this, we'll let Kevin respond to him, say goodnight and go get his milk and cookies for the night because he's getting old to get his rest.
Nice to meet you.
You guys too, yeah.
Yeah. So where was I going with this? The attitude is good, but everybody's got to get an attitude the first week of the season or spring. But I think what we're talking about here, and I want to see what Kevin's take on this, is the sound of what we heard and the manner in which it was delivered, the confidence and poise. Billy had a poise and an assurance about himself I have not seen. And his words, some of the things he talked about, I mean, I love the part about the crucible. He didn't use that word, but sometimes you have to go through it. You know, maybe it makes you better in the end if you do. And I thought he really addressed some things that I thought were had some meat and potatoes to them, David.
Yeah. When asked about the pressure that he's under, he said, that and I'm trying to, because I tried to not memorize it, but just to it made an impression because he said, you have to go through some suffering. It's almost biblical. What he was saying, where about the suffering to appreciate it and to enjoy the payoff at the end. And he says, I think we're near the payoff. He certainly, had some suffering, and he and a lot of other people watching that have bought tickets, and he truly believes, I think, that the days of Job are coming to an end.
Yeah.
I mean, keep the Bible metaphor going.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I remember hearing the same thing from Billy Donovan 15 years ago. Sometimes you have to go through heartbreak to get what you really want.
Yeah.
Maybe during the NIT years after the national championship. So a very similar line that, Billy is espousing here. But I think he has confidence just based on 14 returning starters, 41,000 snaps. I think this team's going to be a little more physically mature, which is going to help them in the SEC in terms of doing the fundamental things, such as tackling. I mean, so many missed tackles, I think, the result of playing so many young guys. True freshman at safety and Jordan Cassell, who did lead the team in tackles. But if you think about it, there's a big difference between a 21, 22-year-old LSU running back coming at you at maybe 20 miles an hour, full speed ahead, that's 220 pounds. So I think that, you're going to see through some of the strength games and stuff, maybe a more confident team that's going to be able to handle some of those battles and some of those battles inside in the trenches where Florida, really has been lacking the last couple of years just in terms of protecting the quarterback and generating plays that affect the quarterback. Those are two areas where you have to see that kind of flip a little bit in year 3 in order for Billy Napier and his program to have some success.
Yeah. Can I get anything about the Boozer twins, Kevin?
I've heard some rumblings. They had a very good visit here in Florida. I think they really like the campus. However, they are Duke legacy people, and it's hard to recruit Duke. Certainly, you go all the way back to 10 years ago. At Providence. Grayson Allen. You go back to those days too. In Florida and Duke and recruiting battles. Austin Rivers. I mean, Florida usually wins. Duke's going to win 9 times out of 10. So I think that's a very difficult and challenging task for sure. So, but it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds with the Boozer twins. It would certainly be a huge get for Todd Golden if he could get them to campus.
All right, thanks for that, Kevin. Appreciate it, man. Good job. Have you on again if you're available. And thanks for being on the program. We're even the games this sun.
See you, Kev.
What's going on?
All right, see you guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for
Nice to meet you.
Great.
Nice to meet you too.
All right,
Thank you.
guys. We've got our coach standing by here, but before we go there, let me be sure and tell people that they should participate in some of the sponsors' activities to support this show. And Titan MRI is one of the ones. They're been a long time sponsor. And listen to this: if you got to have an MRI, and let's be honest, who likes to have an MRI? You don't want to get cramped into a little space. Have to go there at 2:30 in the afternoon, miss work, fumble around for your insurance card, whatever. And what they do for you, they want to make the experience easier for you. My wife tells me you always want to go somewhere where you have an easier experience. And Titan MRI does that. They want you to know they care about your customer's experience. They'll even custom make a date and an appointment for you in the middle of the week, at night, or the weekend if you can't be there at a certain time. Number one. Secondly, when you come there, they're going to assure you they don't want you to be claustrophobic. Do all they can to make your examination comfortable. And then if you don't have insurance, you can use a cash or card to pay for it. So they're really doing a terrific job there in Gainesville. If you need an MRI, check them out, TitanMRI.com. And this guy uses them all the time right here. Evening, Lauren. How you doing?
How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Hey, man.
How's everything?
Three
of my favorite people.
You were in practice today. You saw some things, heard some things, Lauren. Give us your top of the mind stuff.
I think the big thing was just talking about the strength numbers. I know you guys were talking about some of the speed, things like that, but I mean, visibly, guys like Justice Boone, when they walk to the podium, I mean, he looked good. He looked imposing. And then I had never really seen Jake Slaughter up close and personal. And I'm looking behind me. I'm like, who's that coach? And then he walks up and I was like, wow. He looks like an NFL center. And I mean that. I mean, really? He looks really, really good. He looked full. He looked confident. And you could tell that the work's being put in. I'm not a big person. It's tough for me to gauge between, what they're doing now and what they were doing under Mark Hockey. But there have been some strides made. And I look forward to seeing the team kind of on the hoof tomorrow when we get a little look at practice, in the next few. And like I said, I spent a lot of time with Austin Barber in the spring, and it kind of just echoed some of the things that we heard coming out of the spring with the strength program. And, I was also intrigued by the fact that I think, like you said, I know you talk about accountability and tired of hearing about accountability, but I spoke with somebody really close to the program, and, they've been around the program now for 3 years, and they were saying that the depth of people, and you talk about the positive quality of people, has really improved in this program. And I think that speaks volumes to, your Monday through Thursday, when you really got to buckle in and get ready to play football. And that's really where you win and lose football games. And I think that's what really stood out today, was just those kind of things. And I thought, it seems like Coach Napier is starting to really figure out how serious this thing is at the University of Florida. And for so long, I think he had a plan, and it was kind of like a playbook, and this is how I'm going to do it. But it seems that adjustments are being made for the purpose of good football. I mean, he wins the offseason. He wins the off-the-field stuff. But what it comes down to, and we've talked about it a million times, is those, that hour on Saturdays, and they just haven't been able to get it done when they needed to. And I think he's starting to see that maybe adjustments need to be made in the way that they do things within that organization to maybe make strides. So, the first day is, I mean, like Buck Wade said, Andy Jean does look freakish. So, so with just those kind of things. And it'll be interesting to see tomorrow morning when we get a look at them, what they look like, on the hoof a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like this show. They look up and say, David Whitley's buffed, They see it, they tell right away. Who was it? Was it that said they want to take off this shirt and say, "You should see me, I'm ripped"?
Justice Boone. That was Justice Boone.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he looked. Yeah, I mean he
Yeah.
looks like a guy that I always look and I say, hey man, it's tough to make an NFL roster because obviously the roster shrinks in half. But I always look at guys and say, is that a Sunday guy? And I saw a couple guys that at least on wax look like Sunday guys today. So we'll see.
David, what do you think?
It's funny how Jake Slaughter. Yeah, it's the first time I think he's been up there talking. And you're right. He came in and I was like, he looked like a big badass farmer. He had and the boots and the hat. The 5 equals 1 hat for the offensive line.
Yeah.
And he gets talking, and he's got a maturity about him.
Mm-hmm.
I was also thinking, yeah, he's built, but he's like, and I was actually checking during the thing, and he's 6'3", 297. And I thought, that's big. Then I thought, he's the shrimp on that line. When you think of the other people. And, everybody's got big linemen, true, and it's easy to overplay that. But, they are, if you're not 6'6", 330, you don't play anymore in the SEC, it seems like.
True.
But they got the bodies.
Slaughter's not even big anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And Slaughter, he's, he would be, he walked into 99 rooms in Gainesville, and he's like everybody, but he walked into the weight room there. It's like, hey, take a number.
Yeah. Hey, Rob, I don't know what all you've been hearing around the league because you talked to a bunch of guys, and you mentioned Ron Roberts several times, and he today had a presser. I wasn't there. You guys might have been. I read it. I was impressed with what I saw. He right off the bat started raving about the condition. This is what he said. Ron Roberts said, "A tremendous job across the board. Our players are all bigger, faster, stronger, more flexible, more balanced. Hopefully, what we're going to see is a reduction in injuries as well." Hadn't thought about that. That's the side of it. Bigger, stronger, faster is a big goal, but big goal is to keep all those guys on the field. When you got to go down to two or three, it's not the same level. Such a key point, Rob, to this long season with these battering rams they've got in the SEC. You've got to be standing in November to have a chance, Rob.
You better be deep because you may play 17 games this year. In the past, we've seen somebody play 15, but 17, which means there's going to be more by committee, running back by committee, defensive lineman by committee. And I think, Loren, you would agree it's harder to platoon offensive linemen than it is defensive linemen. But I want to yield my time to the distinguished man from Ohio, Coach Loren Meadows, on the creeper defense, because following Ron Roberts' career, he started at Delta State down in Cleveland, Mississippi, which is where Backyard Burger was born. But he also did it at Southeast Louisiana, did it at Baylor. At Auburn last year, the widest talent gap since 1981 when Pat Dye took over, and Auburn took Georgia and Alabama down to the very end to one play in both games. Ron Roberts has better material to work with. And that creeper defense is what it does is it blows up RPO offenses. But I want you to break it down and put it in the vernacular so that even Jethro Bodine can understand it. My dad is listening. No. Now, he would know.
Well, no, what the creeper is there's a myriad of different ways, but it's the use of different fronts, different personnel for different types of offenses. So, for instance, it gives you the ability to take a number of different people that have diverse tools and then be able to play different defenses. Now, everybody talks about the pressure that's created by the creeper, but it's basically built on confusion. It's showing 7 and rushing 5.
How is that any different than the zone blitz that Spurrier ran into and when he got hammered by Nebraska and they didn't know what it was? The zone blitz, it's guys from all the places.
It's similar principles, but it's with the zone blitz, it's more like you were playing zone, and you were firing guys that may be dropping from time to time, things like that. This is more of, like it's almost like a shock value, but it definitely has zone blitz principles. But I think what Ron Roberts is going to be able to do is pencil in people that are going to have specific roles for 3rd and 7 and 2nd and 5. And, there's a lot more slanting involved with the creeper defense where you slant hard, weak, and then you bring somebody strong based on tendencies and things like that. So yes, there's some zone principles to it, but it's basically designed to create confusion, but also create a soundness to it that, guys are still, maintaining gap integrity and things like that. In the zone blitz, sometimes there's a guy running down the middle of the field, wide open, free. You just can't see him because, you got 3 linebackers in your lap. So I think that's one of the things that, the creeper defense, it really is no more than 5 to 6 people coming with pressures. It's not bringing more than you can handle. It's just bringing guys from where you didn't expect or giving you a look and then changing the look post snap to kind of give you, create confusion.
David will tell you sound like a bunch of perverts. That's hey, listen, let me read you this. One of the most encouraging things I saw today was the comments about the linebackers. And Roberts talked about them. And this is the quote. And I want you to react to this, David, and feel free, anybody else, to ask about linebackers. He said, "We've got a bunch. It's going to be a fierce competition as we go through fall camp, but I feel comfortable. They were sitting there with 6, 8 guys that are all big, fast, can run, physical. It's going to be an opportunity to bring out the best in this competition." That's encouraging. They asked him, "Well, who?" "I got a handful of them," he said. "I think it's a really tight race." It is. Probably starts with Shamar James and goes down from there, whether it's Pup Howard or Aaron Childs. Who's this Aaron Childs is suddenly a freak everybody talks about. Miles Graham, we know about. RJ Moden done a tremendous job moving from safety to linebacker in the spring. And obviously, here's my guy, and obviously Derek Wingo. His leadership, his knowledge, his experience in the game has proven valuable to our group when they're out there. You guys know I love Derek Wingo. I've been him on this program 3 or 4 times. I liked him when he wasn't playing, and I'm so happy for him now he's going to get it. So what does that do to you, Dave? Did that kind of get you? I mean, did they have linebackers like that?
Well, one thing when you brought out Nate, that means what Rob touched on, they have depth, which they haven't had, especially. You remember a couple of years ago when Ventrell Miller went down?
Yeah.
Basically, the defense went down with him, But now, they can, if you take Roberts at his word, and I don't have any doubt, he feels he's got enough bodies there to where, you're going to lose something when your first teamer goes second, but you're not going to lose that much as they have in the past. And you're right. Aaron Child, I want to see him because he's a guy. He's
going on with that guy.
Yeah, he's like people are talking. This is the bionic man who's come in, and we didn't see him in the spring because he's in high school, and so nobody's seen him. But everything you hear, they call them an alien and stuff like that. And
that's above an alien. A freak, a freak.
An alien freak, we'll call it. Aliens are calling this guy a freak, but I think a lot is just that they're just impressed with his level of maturity as a guy who was graduating high school, 2 months ago, and was in high school. Wasn't there for spring, but he's already making a big impression on him. And the other guys that you mentioned, Pup Howard. Everybody talks about. When you ask about a guy who's taken a leadership role in his.
First of all, a guy named Pup. You got to love a guy named Pup.
Gotta love. Yeah. I'm thinking that's probably not his real name, but if it is, I give a lot of credit
Grayson.
to his parents.
Grayson. That's his real name. Grayson is his government name.
Yeah.
But to follow up on like what Ron Roberts said, and to kind of even give more clarity into the creeper, you talk about a guy like Miles Graham, you talk about a Derek Wingo, you talk about a Pup Howard, and you talk about a RJ Moden. That's basically what the creeper is. You have guys that, like Pup Howard can rush from the edge and play inside. Miles Graham, rush from the edge. RJ Moden, rush, play coverage. You've got all these guys that will, like I said, will be defined in specific roles. And for instance, you think RJ Moden's going to drop, he rushes. That's the creeper. And that's what Ron Roberts will have at his disposal. And like Rob said, definitely more talent than he was working with last year at Auburn. So, you look at those guys, and then there's always a surprise, and it looks like it could be Aaron Childs. That is a good group, and I saw a picture of Shamar James today checking in, just carrying his bags, and I was like, okay, he does look different. So, I mean, I think like Robert said, and I'll give it back to David. It just, I think when you hear somebody as astute as Ron Roberts talk about his personnel, you at least got to be encouraged. Now, they still got to get the quarterback on the ground in key situations and that kind of thing. But, on paper, and we've said it, they're better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was noticing the comments here. Been a couple about Cormani McLean. What's going on with him?
What is going on?
Yeah, he's a long-term project. Right? I'd be surprised.
Technically a walk-on right now, right?
Yeah, but I would be surprised if he sees the field much at all this year, because he obviously has had some maturing to do, and they think that that's coming along. And also he just, came in at, 165. You're not going to, and he may be up to 175 now, but it's, he's got, he needs some more time under Tyler Miles to bulk up. But I think that they feel good about him long-term now, but I don't think that they're counting on him at all this year.
Yeah. Rob, go ahead and talk about who's on your show tomorrow. And then I'd like to also say, where are we today versus yesterday? Have we, as the program, inched forward a little bit today? Just expectations. I'm doing a column on expectations here in a couple of days, and it has to do a lot with what we talked about earlier, David. When you were going in a solid generation, your expectations were low. Go 500, go to a bowl. The Gen Xers believe you need to win a national championship, but expectations change with coaching cycles, and Florida's had a down cycle. And you don't like to say it this way, but you could say right now, as it stands, you could actually say Florida's program has regressed back to where Bob Woodruff was in the 50s. And that's painful to hear. But the reality is, unless you can do more than just try to get to a bowl game, that's where your program is. None of us believe that's true. All of us think these expectations. So let's talk about expectations for just a second, real quick. And if they're adjusted today, somewhat after the press conference, I don't think you heard them, Rob. So why don't you start, Loren? What are your expectations now as they were 24 hours ago?
Too early to tell. I mean,
you can't cop out. You got to talk about it. It's going to be.
Then I'm staying pat. They're the same.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm staying pat. I'm staying pat.
That's like everybody who I've ever seen. A reporter on TV who doesn't have a closing line, who says only time will tell.
That's what I was gonna say, so I'm glad you did. But no, I mean, I think that I mean right now, I'll take a quote from Billy Napier: "A lot of grass to mow." Grass to mow.
All right, Rob, you got a mower anywhere you can loan us?
No, I mean, you're talking about expectations. In the past, getting to a bowl game was a big deal. Now we got 44 bowl games. That's 88 out of 133 Division I teams are going to get there. I just watched Swamp Kings the last few days with Audrey, and that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, pretty good.
You just got to get tough. Everybody's got players, but you need that Urban Meyer hard ass in there in the locker room. I mean, nobody's perfect, whatever. I mean, things had some players get in trouble. Name me a school that hadn't had players get in trouble that between 18 and 22 years old. Look what's happening in Athens. You pick the school. But if Billy Napier, the smartest thing I think he would do is let somebody run the offense and be the head coach. I mean, look at Sam Pittman. I bet he doesn't even go in the room with what Bobby Petrino's doing. But I think Florida is going to be better than they'll probably win 7 games this year. They might win 8. I think people they're fixated on who they're playing. And again, everybody's looking at the Miami game. Miami's good, but they were 3-5 in the ACC last year, and that league was down. That's why Florida State did not get in the playoffs. They're going to be good. They got a quarterback, Graham Mertz. Why this guy is like a blue chip stock in a bear market with a 5% dividend yield. I like his numbers. I think those translate to more wins, and he's been there through the full cycle, spring practice and everything. I'm not buying the low expectations for Florida, and I'm not going to buy it. I like Ron Roberts too. I think don't blame him for 4th and 31 at Auburn. Whoever called that, though, is a living brain donor.
All right, David, you get to wind it up and to put a bow on this thing and tell us where we stand and how do you feel today versus yesterday. And I know you have a little more pep in your step today, David, than you did yesterday.
I don't know what I predicted before as far as wins. It's probably, if it was 7, I think it might have been 7.
Well, I think we're both right in there at that 6 and 7 where we
6 to 7, yeah.
We have decided.
I would up it to 7.2 right now.
Okay, so it's edged forward a little bit,
inch forward. But you mentioned the old fallback line. Time will tell. Another one is stay tuned. Well, a lot of things to stay tuned for.
Film at 11.
We'll see.
Yes.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, big question mark, like the Riddler in Batman. Big question mark.
Yeah.
All right, guys, great job tonight. Appreciate you being on the program, and we'll catch up to you soon. And Rob, have a good show tomorrow. David, thanks again. Welcome back home, and we'll see you Thursday night, Lauren.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys.
Thank you. Adios.
Thanks to Kevin Brockaway as well for joining the show tonight. So good program and good people. That's what happens when you get good people. Appreciate very much them participating in this tonight. I want to finish off by telling you about a special group of people, Renstar Medical Research. They are consumed with trying to get you to have better health. That's what they want. And they have these clinical trials for you and for us. And they offer opportunities for you to come and be a part of them. They want you to be there because when they're getting DNA for the people in our area, they want to know what are I can't say proclivities or tendencies or whatever in health. That way they can design better medicines for us. And that's what they do. Their data is sent off to some of these companies, biomedical companies, and they use it for preparing a better medication that works for you. And there's clinical trials, you take part in them. You could get compensated for time and travel. You might get some investigational drugs that others don't get or devices. I encourage you to go to renstar.net, look up what they're doing with these clinical trials and see if you think you could go and take part in that. It would be good for you and good for your community. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thanks again to our stellar guest lineup tonight, to our good friend David Whitley's back, also to Loren Meadows, to Kevin Brockaway, who's first time on the show. I didn't know that. And, of course, to Loren Meadows, all joining the program. Have a great night. We're back tomorrow night. We got Allie Peak in the gang. Join us then. Good night, folks.